and solution-focused conversations.
Welcome, listeners, to Control the Chaos Conversations. Today, we are going to be talking about a token economy, and we live in one, which is great because that's sometimes motivating to me and allows me to continuously work hard. What about you, Tara? And I know you had a token economy in your classroom.
I actually moved into a token economy 2 weeks after I started teaching. So that's my personal experience. I had a little bit of chaos in my classroom, students blurting out, getting up out of their seats. Maybe I didn't go over the expectations well enough in the very beginning and continue to visit those expectations. But the token economy I put into a place, and once I put it into place, it was a game changer, having that token economy into place. And at the time, I was an intervention specialist, and it was a classroom that was cross categorical. We had some TBIs, intellectual disabilities, autism. So I had a gamut of different things going on in my classroom, and students with different needs and support systems for it worked for everyone. So it was kind of exciting, and some of it was modified to different kiddos, but just thinking about that piece of, I really struggled in the beginning of the year, and once I put this token economy into place, I never looked back. There's so much value in it.
Yeah, so how does someone maybe get started with a token economy, or what can it look like?
So just thinking about what a token economy is, like wrapping your head around what is the token economy and what are you targeting. So you're looking at, it's like a contingency based system. So your systematic reinforcement is based off a target behavior. So what are your target behaviors that you're looking for? So really, to get it started is identifying those target behaviors, and then the symbols or the tokens are just exchanged for what, are the reinforcers in exchange for those target behaviors. Just like you come to work, right? The target behavior is you show up at work on time, you do your job, you follow X, Y, and Z, and in exchange for that, you're paid. You're paid. That is your token economy. We go into a grocery store, we grocery shop, we exchange. It's the currency for exchanging whatever it is that you're looking. It's for lack of better words, it's behavioral economics. Okay. And it is definitely a applied behavior analysis system, and it's research based system. It is not just another strategy. It is not just another thing that's going to go away. It is a token economy that's used for kids and adults, and it's modeled in many settings that you see throughout your day. So your first thing is, what is going to be your token? Is it going to be a cotton ball? Is it going to be actual currency? Is it going to be a check mark? Is it going to be points? Is it going to be stars? Whatever symbols you're using, it doesn't necessarily have to be money. It could be a paper system with a check mark. So that's your first thing. Figure out what your currency is going to be. Once you figure out what your currency is going to be, identify those specified target behaviors. And some of them may look different for some students than others. Maybe, I mean, we would like to have a system token economy, but then once you have a system token economy, then you can individualize it based on student needs.
Yeah, and for me, it just kind of made sense using money because I wanted to teach my students budgeting skills, and I wanted to teach them how to save and how to spend money. And that kind of stuff. So I was teaching them multiple different skills within that token economy, which was kind of cool as well.
So tell us about some paper systems that you might use as when you're setting up your token economy. What would a
Yeah.
paper system look
So
like
with
for you?
paper systems, you might use the cotton ball example where there's a jar and you're putting cotton balls into the jar, or marbles I've seen. But maybe if you're using money, the students have I think it's called a ledger, right? Is that what it's called?
I actually had a checkbook
Checkbook. Okay.
register.
Yeah.
So they had wallets and
Okay.
they had a checkbook register. And when they would earn money, they would deposit it and write it out just as a deposit.
Mhm.
And then when they went to our store, they would write it out as a withdrawal. So they were actually balancing the checkbook.
Yeah, so students just have like a paper and they're just writing it down, their amounts, or they're maybe keeping track of X's or O's or whatever you're using for that economy. I was working with second grade and they were actually using coins. So, like pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, because that was part of their curriculum. So, if you have something that can align with your curriculum, you might as well go ahead and use that because they had to teach them coins anyway. So, why not teach it with your classroom economy when you're doing it kind of side by side? So that is kind of the paper system. Again, you can kind of just make like a table in Google Sheets or Google Docs, and then you're able to print that for every student and they can just write, and then you could do like a teacher signature if you wanted as well. And then there's like a Google Sheet system. So I've seen teachers have a Google Sheet, and every student might have a different tab, and they are able to kind of keep track digitally. Or they send it out on their learning management system. Every student gets a copy of it. And with that, they keep track themselves, the students. So maybe you would rather do a digital version that is like on Google Sheets. That can work just as well. And then another way is there are programs to support you with an token economy. So there's Stash 101, which is a really cool website that was created by a teacher, and her husband did like all the coding, and then they got funded by a bank. It's completely free, but you're able to go in and you're able to set different cash amounts and give your students rewards just by clicking different buttons. And then it will automatically keep track for the students, and then they're able to turn in or buy different rewards with their cash. And then there's also Class Dojo for maybe those younger students. You'll have a Class Dojo, and again, you can just click and add points or money to the students for them to earn.
And Class Dojo is just a great app for that as well. I know I've seen teachers use it where the staff will add points and then they have that audio of the dinging of the points. So they're recognizing the audio as well as somebody earning points. And they're able to use that Class Dojo language for earning dojo points within their classroom. Or I have also seen where a teacher set it up, an iPad up with the Class Dojo app up. So when she would have a student that would earn points, that they would walk up and she would say, give yourself 2 points for staying in your seat and following instructions, if those were her two target behaviors. And then the students would go up and give themselves 2 points. So then they have that physical piece of engaging with the system as well, just like you would do with your paper system, because that's one important piece of implementing a token economy is that you want students engaged with it. You want them to feel that immediacy of reinforcement. So if the behavior happens, immediately they they see the effect of that, because sometimes the longer people have to wait for that reward or that effect, the less effect or the less they will learn within the system. So that's that part of that. It's called delay discounting. When it the principle of that is that if there's too long of a time frame that goes in between the token reinforcement system, that it, the dots aren't connected, especially if you're thinking about younger kids. So you want that immediacy of reinforcement and providing that. So when a teacher says to a student, hey, give yourself a class dojo, or give yourself a point, or lays a coin right on the desk immediately when the behavior happens, that student is interacting. I will give you an example of this as well too. Thinking about what the target behaviors, I actually went and observed, and so just so you know, all schools with a behavior focus, some of our non-public schools. I went and observed at a school once, and it was a small classroom, and everything in the classroom was designed around a token economy. And in fact, the staff was measured on the amount of positives that they gave to students. So in this class, small group, they're working with a teacher. The teacher has coins, and picture this in your head if you can, with this visual. Students are working in like a kidney shaped table, and the teacher is walking around on the outside of them because they're individually working at the table, and he's giving them coins for the expected behavior. Thank you for staying in your seat. Thank you for asking for help. Thank you for continuing to work. And he's giving them that token using the strategy of giving the token with the verbiage of what they received the token for. This one little girl was really struggling and starting to get frustrated with the work that she was doing. And you can see her starting to cry. Well, crying was not a target behavior. The target behaviors was staying in your seat, continuing to work. So as the teacher walked around, he didn't say anything about the crying. He laid down a token and said, thank you for staying in your seat and continuing to work, because she was getting frustrated. So she's crying, didn't say anything about crying. He walks around, circulates the room. He gives her 2 more positives, even though she's crying, because the crying wasn't the target behavior, right? Gives her 2 more tokens for the crying. And so now she's gotten 3 tokens all while she's crying. By the 4th time, he comes around and circulates the room. She holds up her paper and shows him. The tears stop. She starts wiping her tears from her face. And she had persevered through the assignment and made it through, all while crying, but she continued to work. He just kept reinforcing that she was continuing to work even though she was struggling. It was one of the most beautiful things that I've ever seen, and that's probably because I'm lame and I love behavior. But to watch this in action, right? Like this student continuing to persevere through this struggle, even though she was so frustrated that she was crying. And then eventually, by the 4th time, he walked around the room, wiping her tears and holding up her paper that she was finished. There's so much value in that, that continuing to work and staying on target with your behaviors. It was an amazing thing to watch.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear that story, because I think sometimes you're like, oh, I shouldn't reward them, but really they might need it in that moment.
Yeah, and she was doing what she was supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah,
She was continuing to work. She just was frustrated. So her emotion and her feelings were coming out physically, through her tears, but she was still doing what she was supposed to be doing, even though she was struggling so much. So, just seeing examples like that is really valuable when you think about what a token economy system can do in your classroom.
Yeah. And so setting up maybe a class store or school store, what do you suggest goes into the store?
Well, a lot of things, and this is kind of a roadblock, or maybe it's a myth. A lot of people think that, you know, well, this is going to come out of my pocket. Like a store is an actual
Mhm.
store where I'm giving students tangible items. But a store doesn't have to cost anything. In my store, I made coupons, and every week we had a banker. So Friday, it was time to buy. Um, and you could do this throughout the week for students that don't want to save, but you have students that sometimes save for the larger rewards. Um, but you you price point, right? Just think of a store. So the higher the value of the reinforcement, the higher the value of the coupon. So say I wanted a Frosty from Wendy's, which is 99 cents. I just finished saying that you don't have to offer tangible rewards. Now I'm talking about Frosty from Wendy's. That's 99 cents. But that Frosty from Wendy's from 99 cents cost like $200 for them to save. So it took them a while to get there. So you don't buy very many Frosties. But homework passes, phone time, tech time, a free pass. I had all these coupons for younger kiddos. You might have bring a toy to school on recess day. You might have a dance party. You might have, or you can also think about class rewards as well for those students that are motivated by social things. If they wanted to save up and earn like a class dance party or a class kickball, if they're into competitive things, and then that's even more reinforcing to them if they are a person that is after like peer attention or seeking peer attention. Then them working towards earning a class reward is very motivating to them. Maybe it could be a movie day or like whatever. Those are those group contingencies that you can talk about. So there's so many ideas that do not cost a penny. So don't think of the roadblock as being um, as being money, that I'm going to have to spend a lot of money to have a classroom store. You could have a classroom store that's completely made up of coupons of things that don't cost a penny. I get to sit by a friend. I get to sit where I want in the room. Um, a technology party where we have 15 minutes where you could get on any technology that you want, whether it's an iPad, a computer, or a phone. You get to play a game. So all of these things are highly suggested so that you do not have to put any money into a token economy. And then maybe if you want to add a few of those things as those big rewards, like a 99-cent Frosty from Wendy's. And I'm only saying Wendy's because it was right across from my school at the time. So it was something easy I could run and go and get on my lunch. And because my lunch was when their lunch was, so I could run and grab it and bring it to them at lunchtime. So that's just why I did a 99-cent Frosty.
Yeah, and I'm sure the kids love it. And ask for their feedback too. Ask them what do they want to see? What rewards would they like to see in the store? What could they buy or save up for? They might have some really creative ideas.
So I know that you did a classroom economy when you did summer school, correct? Token economy.
I did a smaller version of it, yeah.
Tell us about what your smaller version looked like if someone didn't want to go full blown classroom token economy.
Yeah, so what the students did is we just used a Google Sheet for this because I didn't know about Stash, which I wish I would have known about Stash because it's an amazing website. But yeah, I just had like a Google Sheet. It was assigned to them in Google Classroom, and as they met different behavior expectations, they got different rewards. And then I just used coupons. And then on the last day, we did slushies. So if they wanted to save up for that, like class party reward, they could. But the kids really liked it. And then I also did a similar version of this with a teacher with kind of content. So we were actually talking about economics in the social studies curriculum. And so different tasks were different amounts of money. And so it wasn't like really like a classroom economy, but it was just kind of getting students prepared to like try some of it was like lined up with depth of knowledge. So the higher levels of DOK were more, you would get more money if you completed those tasks. And the kids were so motivated that I'm really glad I did that activity with that teacher, because she's actually thinking about doing a classroom economy this school year in her classroom, where students, again, they were completing different tasks where some things were $10 because it was super easy, low level DOK type of activity, where something that took a little bit more time to create or to explore, they got more money for that task. So I've done it kind of with curriculum as well in that aspect.
Yeah, I love. I mean, and like we said, you're choosing those target behaviors. So your
Mm-hmm.
token economy could be anything that you need it to be. Um, and you might even think about like leveling up your token economy. So these are my target behaviors that I really want to focus on every day. And then we throw in a like bonus. Okay, so this week we're doing a project based learning. So we're gonna, within your project based learning, if you're able to get along with a group, and you're able to brainstorm and communicate or whatever those target behaviors within your group work. So you can have your core token economy, and then you can level it up on different things that you might be doing within your classroom, like you're talking about some of those academic things. So you really can, you want to have that core token economy, but you can really modify it and change it over a specified period of time to level it up. Or if you have a student that's specifically struggling with a target behavior that is not within your system, then you might level it up and by offering tokens to that student for those specific areas of struggle, whether that be they gain additional points or additional tokens or cotton balls, or maybe they earn something differently. Um, but there is actually like so many ways that you can work about leveling up. And classroom jobs. Tell me about the classroom jobs, like leveling up with the classroom jobs.
Yeah, so with classroom jobs, I usually have students apply, and I just do a Google form. When I have used this in the past, we've had students actually dress up for the interview, which can be really fun, where they get, a suit and tie or dress or whatever, and they come in and they interview for their job. So having some student input, I usually have different values or different worths for jobs. So if you do this job, it might be a little bit more, or if you do this one, just because it depends on the job that the students are doing. But then they get a paycheck every single time they do that job. And what I like about Stash 101 is if it's salary, the students just automatically get that every 2 weeks or whatever you set up in the Stash 101 settings. If it's an hourly job, the kids have to clock in and clock out. So based on how long they do that task is how much money they can earn. So that's a really fun one. Managing money is another value that they learn in the classroom. Having a checkbook. And then also, this is a great strategy for PBIS, which we've talked about on our episodes, of just that positive behavior system.
Absolutely. And you're talking about classroom jobs and a salary. There's many ways that you can work that. I had my core token economy for my target behaviors in my classroom. I had classroom jobs as well. And mine, of course, was a paper system at the time. This was several years ago, and I didn't know you. It probably would have not been a paper system if I knew you then. um, but I had on one of my bulletin boards the all the students' names and then the jobs, and we had magnets because it was a magnetic board, and then we rotated those jobs each week. And if the student, mine were hourly jobs, if the student didn't come to school, they didn't get the money for that job because they weren't there to do it. If the student, so really, they were just like a job. If it's not a salary job, if you don't go to work on an hourly job, you don't get paid, right? So kids were learning that part of life. Like if I have an hourly job and I don't go, I don't get paid. If I don't come to school and I'm not doing my job, I don't get paid. So, then that was looking at the attendance piece. So I was earning money for being there and doing my job. And if they forgot to do their job, um, then guess what? They didn't get paid that day. So in the beginning, we really enforced in that classroom job pieces when we added that in. We didn't start with classroom jobs as part of the token economy. We started with just the basic target behaviors. We added classroom jobs down the line. But when we did add it into the system, that was just a bonus for kids. They would come up to me in the morning and they would be like, Mrs. Ruckman, I finished my job. Okay, here you go. You get paid. And, I would check their job, see that they did it, and they would get their money. So that was that creating that, like, okay, if I do the work, I'm going to be reinforced with it. So we exchanged that currency there, and we created that environment of positive language. When I'm working, I'm gaining, and we just created within our classroom this own culture of this classroom token economy.
Yeah, and I think just some roadblocks that I experienced was like I forgot to have the kids buy from the classroom store. So what I did to overcome that roadblock was just every Friday, this time you can buy from the classroom store. Because I would just keep forgetting and forgetting. And I was like, okay, we have a set time and date added to our schedule, and that really helped.
Yeah, I think one of the roadblocks that I came across was taking money away. I actually, in the beginning, was taking money away from students, and this was kind of at the beginning of it. But this actually had a negative impact on my students when I look back and think about the experience. When I started taking money away, they kind of weren't buying into the system anymore, right? So when they didn't come to school, I wasn't taking money away, they just weren't earning it, right? So if you think about it like that, so if they don't do the expected behaviors, um, you you just don't earn. It's just like coming to work. If you're an hourly employee, you don't show up to work, they're not taking money away from you. They're just not paying you for what you didn't earn. So when you think about it like that, that's kind of the way that I structured the system in my class. And I know when you really look at a token economy and the way it's presented in PBIS, we're not taking away the money. Like if you show up to work 10 minutes late and you're an hourly employee, you just don't earn money. They don't say, okay, now you were 10 minutes late. Now you owe me $20, right? Because you were 10 minutes late. No, you just clocked in later and you didn't earn as much. So when you think of your system like that, we're not taking away the money because then students start, they're not buying into the system as much. And you want to create this, it's part of the reward of it is not just individual behavior, but creating that positive classroom culture environment.
Yeah, and I think another roadblock was just handing out tokens, that consistency. So what I found is I had to like physically print off pieces of paper that was kind of like an IOU $5. But as I was teaching, I was moving around the room and I could hand them to the students as I saw different things. So just having that hand, like just an IOU laminated thing that I could just keep reusing, and then I would put them in their document, or students could go in and put it in their Google sheet or whatever, made that roadblock go away as well.
Yeah, 100%. I used actual like Monopoly money is what I used with the dollars. I don't think it was Monopoly money, but you know what I mean. I used paper and coins, fake money, and I kept it in my pocket. So when I would be walking around and circulating the room, I could take it out of my pocket and lay it down right away. I've seen people that have had fanny packs, and I mean most people don't want to have a fanny pack around them every day in school, but it was. I do. I like a fanny pack. Sorry. I carry fanny packs. I'm cool like that. I'm bringing fanny packs back, by the way. But having that money close to you is the point. Whether it's a fanny pack, a pocket, several locations in your room so you can get to it, so you can easily, consistently make sure they have that immediate reinforcement, cotton ball, whatever it is, that you have access to it so you can get to it quickly.
Yeah. And so your call to action is set up a classroom economy. Maybe it is for one lesson just to try it out with some like depth of knowledge, like we did in that social studies classroom, or maybe it's for behavior. But just try it, see how your students respond. And if it goes well, maybe set it up for the whole year, because I think it can be really motivating for students. So until next time, make sure you control the chaos. Thanks for listening to Control the Chaos EDU. Check out the description for show notes.
We look forward to connecting with you on social media. Subscribe to the weekly podcast so you never miss an episode. Control the chaos. Until next time.